Welcome to Elysium Critics, and today we're going to talk about Dragon Age: The Veilguard, released on October 31st as the latest installment on the Dragon Age franchise. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe to help us bring more content to you. For those unfamiliar with Dragon Age, this title takes place on Thedas, which is majorly divided into two continents, Ferelden and Tevinter. The first two installments of the game were passed on Ferelden, and now this installment is on the Tevinter Empire, a place that was only hinted and some characters came from it, but we never actually saw it on the previous games. When learning that fact and learning that three choices from the previous games was going to be imported and impacted this story, I wasn't nearly as disappointed as some of the hardcore fans and still decided to give it a chance. However, to be completely transparent, this game feels like as if the writing team was under shotgun aim all the times. Every single dialogue is so exhaustively politically correct that it took some of the magic of the world building that Dragon Age is so famous for. In previous titles, all characters struggled to accept each other. The Templar kept trading sparks with the mage, and they couldn't accept each other because they came from different backgrounds, and they could feel the effort to keep themselves from fighting each other just because they were trying to save the world, and that was so much more important than where they came from. But you could actually feel this effort. You could see them struggling to accept each other's behaviors and practices. Here, it seems that everything is normalized to an absurd level. The only conflicts happens between two specific characters, Davrin and Lucanis, which one is a Grey Warden monster hunter who kills because he has to, while the other is an assassin because he kills because he has a job. They have a few confrontations and a fight in one of the final scenes of a chapter, but this conflict is also superficially resolved, with no real depth. Afterwards, they act like nothing ever happened, and some of the choices even have them both approving the protagonist's actions simultaneously, which is uncommon. Usually, when two characters fight each other, they have naturally morally opposing alignments, and when you choose something, usually one likes and one dislikes your attitudes. Another disappointing aspect is that only one choice really affects the plot during Chapter 6, where you have to choose between saving Rathus or Treviso. After that, no decision seemed to impact the story. There was nothing morally dubious for you to choose, except for a few specific choices that had no really impact, and one big choice at the end of the game where you have to put your characters in certain positions to get the best outcome or the fight would go completely awry. One of the best things in BioWare games was that when you were left with a choice, you could either save a person to kill Manny, or you had morally dubious choices where no one was either right or wrong. They both have their aspects of where they were good or evil, like the fight between mages and Templars. But this completely disappeared in this installment of the game, so this was quite a letdown. Initially, when I was starting to play the game, I saw that characters remembered what you said and the dialogue choices you made, which gave me a lot of hope for impactful choices and morally challenging subjects, but this didn't hold up. Not to mention that some dialogues are so cliche they were almost painful to hear. The game's mechanics are similar to the previous ones. You choose from three basic classes, Rogue, Warrior, and Mage, and select specializations within those classes, allowing for various builds. But, to tell the truth, in this game, I think the only one who really shone through was the Mage, because he had an orb and dagger dynamic, which made the playthrough and the playstyle really fun most of the time. There was also a new system of applications and detonations which each class could apply and detonate status effects as overwhelmed, suppression, or fatigue, weakness. This adds synergy between your class abilities and those of your team members, especially in higher difficulties. Mobility was smooth, and it was nice to know that you can sprint and overcome most obstacles just by running into it. But this sprinting and agility wasn't thought with precision, so it was harder to control some running aspects and climbing aspects. They then some situations like that happened quite frequently. The game also didn't feel carefully crafted. Even statue monsters can suffer bleeding effects from character class abilities. A millennial elf statue bleeding? I mean, really, guys? Really? The game is visually appealing with standout graphics, and the character creator has a lot of options. It's not the best that I've ever seen, but it's okay. You can craft many kind of characters if you want. But there are some oddities, like sometimes you can land on tree leaves and they're solid surfaces, but then fall right through them, which can be funny at times. Otherwise, some bugs can be quite annoying. And the game has released for over a week, so I think a patch should already have been established to counter those bugs. So it was kind of a letdown again. The dungeons are really well designed, but underutilized. There's a dungeon called the Ossuary, which is an elven ruined underwater dungeon. Great structure, great ambience, but they made it feel dull, with repetitive up-down mechanics and crystal destruction. In previous games, exploring the Fade was talking with demons, morally complex dialogues, maybe even get a pact with one of the demons. Here, they removed all that. When you walk into the Fade, it's really literally you walking into another dungeon. It's really disappointing, and it created no immersive, like completely disconnected from the other games. The soundtrack is generic, lacking any grand orchestral moments, nothing like the Inquisition's The Chant of Light, which gave some players chills, myself included. Let's even hear a little bit of it now. On the Veilguard, the music is forgettable. I often played it with the volume down and only noticed the volume down when my abilities were silenced during battles. And I said, oh crap, it is zero volume right now, so let me tune it up. Difficulty levels are well balanced. In storytelling mode, most fights last about 4 minutes, except for battles with cutscene or special mechanics. That is, if you really want to pay attention only to the story and not have any fun with the battle mechanics at all, then, I mean, okay, go for it, play on storytelling mode. On hard mode, enemies do not have complex new mechanics, they simply have higher defense, HP, and attack, meaning they're simply sponges. There are no difficult specific mechanics or special abilities for bosses on higher levels, which is not very innovative. I mean, it's 2024, guys. Can you please add some new content if I want to play on hard difficulties? It's not really that hard. Puzzles are equally basic. Turn this statue, connect that bridge, and voila, you can access all parts of the game. There's a no-brainer attitude to puzzles. I don't know why. There are no extremely hidden mechanics or anything like that, like the previous games, so it was also a kind of a letdown. The game has a lot of negative feedback, including censorship by woke individuals, which caused certain reviews or opinions to be removed or edited. This actually makes us question if freedom of speech is only unilateral, but that said, the game is divided in the player base, mainly because of its LGBTQIA content. In fact, Steam even tagged it as an LGBTQ game. Here, at Elysium Critics, I aim to elevate discussions, rather than stir up controversy. With that in mind, my rating for this game is a 5.5. And this is not directly due to the woke content, but instead my personal opinion. The game tries to convey this message. One of the characters literally says that phrase: we can't do our jobs effectively if we have unresolved personal issues, which justifies the emphasis on identity and that search for identity that all character members you seem to have. But in my opinion, it detracts from the urgency to solving the villain's plans. I mean, they are blighted elven gods that want to destroy the world, but you're having dinner with a member's mom asking their pronouns? I mean, guys, come on. Many content creators find the game disappointing due to the clear influence of Sweet Baby Inc. woke things. Personally, I don't think that's a real issue. I mean, it's an issue here because they took other things from the game. The absence of morally complex choices, the lack of genuine conflict between teammates, or the chance for a choice that could make a team member oppose you and leave your party, like it's the appeal in BioWare games. Mass Effect was brilliant. Dragon Age Origins was brilliant because you could vex so much of your party members that they would choose to leave you. So you have to be mindful of the things you do, the things you say. This game took it all away. And I really gave it a chance. I really gave it a shot because I didn't want to believe. Creating a sequel to a masterpiece like Dragon Age Origins is difficult, and exploring new approaches to themes of the games isn't wrong. But when you remove core elements that make your game unique, that's where the problem really lies. What does that rating mean for you? Why should you care that Elysium critics gave a 5.5, a 6, or a 7 to a game? It means that I suggest not buying this game. Perhaps look to play a game, play another game, or play something else with someone else. I mean, our money is limited and we can spend on a nice evening with our friends if I chose not to buy it. So that's where the problem really lies. If you're hoping for a true Dragon Age successor, you won't find it here. Elysium Critics is signing off. Disappointed, but I'll live. See you next time.